If you've ever wondered how Islam views Jesus, peace be upon him, you're not alone. For many people, Jesus is one of the most familiar names in human history. Even those who are not religious often feel they already know something about him. So when Islam speaks about Jesus, a natural question quietly forms in the mind. Who was Jesus in Islam, really? And more specifically, did Jesus receive a book in Islam? The answer may surprise you, not because it is complicated, but because it is rarely explained calmly. So let's slow this down. No debates, no comparisons, just the Islamic understanding, step by step. One of the most important things to know is this. In Islam, belief in Jesus is not optional. A Muslim cannot truly be Muslim while rejecting Jesus, peace be upon him. He is not a side figure. He is not ignored. He is not dismissed. In fact, Islam places Jesus among the greatest prophets ever sent by God. So before asking about books or scriptures, we need to understand who Jesus is in Islam. In Islamic belief, Jesus is known as ʿīsā ibn Maryam, Jesus, the son of Mary. He was born miraculously, without a father, by the command of God. This is not a small detail in Islam, it is emphasized repeatedly. His birth was a sign, not of divinity, but of God's power. Islam teaches that Jesus lived a life of humility, devotion, and moral clarity. He spoke wisdom, he healed by God's permission, and he called people to worship God alone. This last point matters deeply, because in Islam, every prophet shares one core mission: to guide people back to the worship of the one Creator, not to themselves, not to an idea, but to God. So where does revelation come into this? In Islam, prophets are not only moral teachers, they are carriers of guidance. And yes, according to Islamic belief, Jesus did receive a revelation. That revelation is called the Injīl. The Injīl was a message revealed by God to Jesus, peace be upon him, to guide the people of his time. It confirmed the same fundamental truths taught by earlier prophets, that God is one, that humans are accountable, and that life has moral purpose beyond this world. So Islam does not deny that Jesus received divine guidance. On the contrary, it affirms it. But here is where careful distinction is needed. In Islam, the Injīl is not understood to be the same thing as what is commonly referred to today as the New Testament. This distinction is made not to provoke disagreement, it is made to preserve clarity. Islam teaches that the Injīl was a single, unified revelation given directly to Jesus. It was not written by him, and it was not a collection of later biographies. Just as the Qur'an was revealed to Muhammad, peace be upon him, the Injīl was revealed to Jesus, peace be upon him. So when Muslims speak about the Injīl, they are referring to that original revelation, not later writings about Jesus' life. This raises another quiet question many people carry. So what are the Gospels then? From an Islamic perspective, the Gospels are understood as writings about Jesus, accounts, teachings, memories, and narratives preserved by later communities. Islam does not deny that these writings contain moral teachings or historical value, but it does not identify them as the original Injīl itself. This is a subtle but important difference. Islam distinguishes between revelation given to a prophet and writings about a prophet. This distinction applies not only to Jesus, but to earlier scriptures as well. So what happened to the Injīl? Islam does not offer a detailed historical reconstruction. It does not accuse individuals. It does not speculate endlessly. It simply states a theological position. The original Injīl, as revealed to Jesus, is no longer preserved in its complete original form. This belief is not unique to Jesus. Islam teaches the same principle about other earlier scriptures. They were revealed, they guided people, but they were not preserved with a divine guarantee. And this is where care is important. This belief is not meant to disrespect Jesus. In fact, Islam honors him profoundly. Jesus is mentioned by name in the Qur'an more times than Muhammad, peace be upon him. His mother, Mary, has an entire chapter named after her. Islam defends her honor. It affirms her purity, and it elevates Jesus as a righteous messenger. So when Islam speaks about the loss of the original Injīl, it does so without diminishing Jesus himself. At this point, a deeper question begins to emerge. If Jesus received revelation, and earlier prophets did too, why did the Qur'an come later? Islam answers this by framing revelation as a continuing process, not a single moment. Each prophet was sent to a particular people at a particular time with guidance suited to them. Jesus was sent to his people. The Injīl was guidance for them. But Islam teaches that humanity eventually reached a point where a final, universal message was needed, one that would not be limited to a single community. That message is the Qur'an. From the Islamic perspective, the Qur'an did not come to reject Jesus. It came to confirm his message, clarify misunderstandings, and preserve guidance in a way that previous scriptures were not preserved. The Qur'an speaks about Jesus with respect. It restores his role as a prophet. It removes confusion about worship, and it places him within a long line of messengers, not apart from them. So in Islam, Jesus is honored. Jesus is believed in. Jesus received revelation, and that revelation was the Injīl. But worship remains directed to God alone. Understanding this changes the tone of the conversation entirely. Instead of seeing Islam as a rival narrative, Islam presents itself as a continuation, one that seeks to protect the message of all prophets, including Jesus. This is why Muslims speak about Jesus with care, not hostility, with reverence, not rejection, and with clarity, not confusion. So when someone asks, did Jesus receive a book in Islam? The Islamic answer is, yes, he received the Injīl, a divine message, sent for his people, honored in Islam. And the Qur'an came later, not to erase him, but to preserve the final guidance. If you've ever felt confused by different portrayals of Jesus, or overwhelmed by loud arguments about faith, understanding this perspective can bring calm where there was noise. And that calm is exactly where understanding begins. If you're seeking a quiet, respectful understanding of Islam and its teachings, you're welcome here.